My name is Martin Cole, and today I'm going to share the kind of story that can flip a man's life inside out. Imagine standing outside a state tribunal stripped of everything you worked for, your home, your marriage, your closest friendship. That was me. But what came next turned my darkest night into a twist no one could have predicted. Stay with me, because this is not just about betrayal. It's about how one call can pull you from rock bottom into a future you never saw coming. Before I dive in, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. Your words keep me going and help me bring even more stories of survival and second chances. I left the district chamber with a tan legal folder pressed tight against my chest, holding papers that spelled out my losses in black ink. My wife, Elaine, had just claimed the $3.2 million estate in Silvergate Hills, half my savings, and most of the life we had built together. She brushed past me with a curling grin, her new prize at her side. Richard Hale, the man I'd trusted since I was 20. Neither of them looked back. As the glass doors shut behind them, she leaned close and whispered two words that carved deeper than any judgment. "You're nothing." That night I couldn't face the emptiness of the row house unit I was renting, so I parked my truck behind a roadside diner and tried to sleep. Around midnight, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I almost let it ring out. Something in me said to answer. A measured voice with a European accent spoke. "Mr. Cole, we've been trying to reach you for 17 years. This is NextCore Private Trust in Geneva. You are listed as the sole heir to an account belonging to Daniel Brooks." I froze. Daniel Brooks, my uncle, had vanished 19 years ago. The banker paused, then read an account balance. "Mr. Cole, the amount currently standing is $46 million. To understand why this hit me so hard, you need to know who I was before that call. I'm 51 now, but until last year I thought I was a simple man who had done enough. I spent 28 years in construction, starting at the bottom, swinging hammers, pouring concrete, building foundations with raw hands and blistered palms. My values were simple. Work early, sleep tired, keep your family fed, and stay loyal. I thought that was all it took. I married Elaine when I was 23. She had an energy that drew me in from the start. We didn't have much, just a cramped place in Fairhaven, some hand-me-down furniture, and oversized dreams. She worked days in a diner and studied nursing at night, while I took every contracting job I could find. Those were our real team years. Even small wins felt like celebrations. I still remember splitting a cheap bottle of soda over our first tax return like it was champagne. As I grew, so did the work. I built a small contracting team, won a municipal project, and money finally flowed steady. That's when I surprised her with the estate. It wasn't flashy, but it was grand. Brick walls covered in ivy, trees wrapping it like a private fortress. 5 bedrooms, a wine cellar we never touched, and a garden she once promised would bloom with lavender. It cost $3.2 million, most paid in cash, the rest financed. I thought I was giving her a dream. But soon, Elaine wasn't the same. She joined the members' lodge, then a civic council, kept her hair perfect, and filled her calendar with wine tastings and fundraising banquets. At first, I called it growth. People change. I figured I'd catch up. Meanwhile, I kept weekends simple with my daughter Lily, now 22, a sharp mind with her mother's wit and my stubborn streak. We'd walk the dogs, fish off the dock, or watch movies until we fell asleep. Every Sunday, I drove my mother, Ms. Langley, from her house in Silvergate for family dinner, though Elaine's patience for those evenings thinned with time. And then there was Richard Hale. He wasn't just a friend, he was family and everything but blood. We had hunted together, moved furniture for each other, and shared nights under the stars with glass tumblers of whiskey. When my father passed, Richard held my mother's hand through the funeral because I couldn't. I would have taken a bullet for him. I never saw what was happening, or maybe I refused to. The truth was creeping in while I buried myself in work. Elaine and Richard spent more time at those banquets, whispering about plans I was too tired to join. She claimed I was absent, always working. I didn't argue. I thought sweat could save a marriage. But the distance only grew. Some nights she slept in the guest room. I lay awake staring at ceilings, wondering when the laughter died. And in those sleepless hours, I remembered something my Uncle Daniel Brooks once told me. He was the odd one, rolled up in a luxury sedan, smoked imported cigars, and made family dinners feel like board meetings. When I was 17, he leaned close and said, "Martin, never believe four walls mean safety. Sometimes they just hide what's already broken." Back then, I laughed it off. Now I understand. The collapse of a marriage isn't always a thunderclap. Sometimes it's a slow drip that hollows the stone until nothing's left. I didn't realize how far it had all gone until one Friday, the day I came home early. That Friday, I left a job site in Riverbend earlier than usual. We'd just finished laying cedar planks for a deck, and my back was screaming from the work. On the drive home, I stopped by Millstone Parkside to pick up a pastry roll Elaine loved. In my head, I pictured us on the porch, maybe laughing again like the old days. Foolish hope, but I held on to it anyway. As I pulled into the driveway, I spotted Richard Hale's truck near the garage. At first, it didn't register. He often swung, by to lend a hand or drop off venison after a hunt, but the stillness around the estate pressed on me. No dogs barking, no television humming, no movement, only silence. I slipped in through the kitchen door, boots tracking mud, and froze. A muffled laugh floated down from upstairs, Elaine's laugh. Once that sound wrinkled her eyes and pulled me closer. Now it belonged to someone else. Step by step, I climbed the staircase, each tread heavier than the last. At the bedroom door, I caught his voice tangled with hers. I turned the handle. Inside, my world collapsed in silence. Elaine sat on the edge of the bed, legs crossed, steady gaze fixed on me. Richard fumbled with his shirt, but she didn't flinch, didn't cover herself, didn't even blink. Instead, she straightened her hair and said, in the steadiest voice I'd ever heard, "Didn't expect you yet." He stammered out something weak. I couldn't even register the words. I didn't scream. I didn't break the furniture. I walked out, down to the garage, and sat on a workbench pile staring at the concrete floor until the light shifted outside. That night, I slept in the guest room. The pastry box never opened. By morning, it was in the trash, and Elaine had already filed for divorce. I tried to reason with her and asked if we could settle without dragging it through the system. She laughed at me, sharp and dismissive. "You're the builder, not the brain. Let the tribunal decide." Then she hired Leonard Price, a lawyer known for his frosted demeanor and predatory stare. For 11 months, I sat through hearings in the district chamber while he painted me as unstable and controlling. He dragged up old subcontractor disputes, cherry-picked texts, even twisted financial records from a recession year to make me look dishonest. Elaine never shed a tear. She dressed like she was at a gala, hair perfect, legs crossed, not a flicker of Shaw. When Lily testified, trying to speak the truth, Elaine wouldn't even glance at her own daughter. At the end, the judge handed down the ruling. Elaine got the $3.1 million estate, most of our savings, and the shared retirement fund. I kept my truck, my tools, and a bare row house unit that barely felt like shelter. I didn't feel livid, or even broken, just hollow, like I was watching someone else's tragedy play out from the sidelines. After the decision, I walked out of the chamber alone. Richard was gone, probably at the estate already pouring drinks into cut-glass tumblers. Elaine passed by, her attorney at her side. She leaned close one last time and whispered, "You're nothing." I didn't reply. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel in the parking garage. My wife, my closest friend, my home, and 28 years of sweat had been stripped from me. But that night, something I never expected was about to change everything. I couldn't stomach the white walls of the row house, so I drove north. No destination, just distance. Around 10, I pulled into a diner lot off Route 9 and shut off the engine. My head sank back against the seat. The phone lit up. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, certain it was more bad news. But I answered. A calm voice said, "Mr. Cole, this is Nexcorp Private Trust in Geneva. We've been searching for you for 17 years. The call began with a measured European accent. Is this Martin Cole? I hesitated. Who's asking? My name is Victor Hale with Nextcore Private Trust in Geneva. We've been attempting to contact you for many years. Are you related to Daniel Brooks? His name jolted me. My Uncle Daniel hadn't crossed my mind in ages. He was my father's older brother, the family outlier. While the rest of us worked farms and job sites, Daniel wore tailored suits, lit imported cigars, and carried himself like he was privy to a world no one else could see. He appeared every few years, slipping me a crisp $50 bill for my birthday before vanishing again. The last anyone heard, he had gone abroad in his 30s and disappeared altogether. Yes, I cleared my throat. He was my uncle. Why? Victor's voice stayed steady. Mr. Cole, you are listed as the sole beneficiary of a dormant account. It has remained untouched for 17 years. Your uncle left instructions for us to release the funds only after one specific legal condition was met. I gripped the phone tighter. What condition? That you were no longer bound by a marriage license. The words sliced through me like winter air. And the funds? I asked. He paused. As of this evening, the account holds $46 million. The cab of my truck seemed to tilt. My fingers trembled against the steering wheel as if the numbers might etch themselves there. Are you still with me, Mr. Cole? Victor asked. Yes, I whispered. Barely. He explained that over a decade, Daniel had funneled investments, private equities, old world bonds, shadowed assets, into a shielded account. The money had grown slow but steady, protected by silence and time. I asked why no one had told me sooner. Your uncle was cautious, Victor said. He did not trust your spouse. His words, not mine. He instructed us to wait until your marital status changed. He also left a message for you. Martin must stand alone before he sees his worth. The phrase floored me. When I was a teenager, Daniel had once taken me fishing and said, "Wealth only reflects the man inside. Make sure you know who you are before you stare into the mirror." Back then, I dismissed it as one of his strange riddles. Now, it felt like a prophecy. Victor continued, "To finalize, we require your presence in Geneva. We will arrange all travel and lodging. The funds can be transferred wherever you designate." I didn't give an answer right away. He left me a direct contact number, and the line went quiet. I sat in the dark cab staring through the windshield at a sky full of stars, wondering if any of them had been shining the night Daniel vanished. For the first time in months, I wasn't just broken. I was confused, caught between ruin and rebirth. The next morning I called Miss Langley. She didn't sound surprised. "That man always knew more than he showed," she said softly. "Maybe this is finally your chance to breathe." Later I told Lily. She went quiet for a long moment, then said, "Dad, you deserve it. Just don't let it turn you into someone else." That same afternoon, I booked a flight. No hesitation. I tossed 2 pairs of jeans, a few shirts, my worn canvas wallet, and the bronze pocket watch my father gave me into a duffel bag. That was all I needed. I didn't tell Elaine. She had no right to know. When my plane touched down in Geneva on an early Tuesday morning, the city felt like a painting. Cobbled streets, timeless stone, suits moving briskly past coffee stands. I hadn't left the country since a honeymoon trip to Costa Rica, yet here I was with a banker's invitation tucked into my pocket. A driver waited at arrivals with my name on a placard. He guided me to a sleek business sedan, opened the door with a nod, and offered no small talk as we pulled into the city. I didn't know it then, but stepping into that car was the beginning of uncovering secrets about Daniel, and about myself, that went far beyond money. The driver wound us through the city streets, past clock towers and narrow alleys, before climbing a hill that overlooked Ironwood Lake. At the top stood a stone fortress of a building, iron gates gleaming beneath gold-etched letters, Nextcore Private Trust. Inside, the air smelled of polished leather and oak. I was led down a long corridor into an office too. Hat looked more like a scholar's retreat than a bank. Rows of mahogany shelves lined with ledgers, a massive globe resting near the window, and beyond it, a view of the lake so calm it felt like time had stopped. A man in his early 60s greeted me with a handshake. "Mr. Cole, welcome. We've been waiting for this day." It was Victor Hale, the same voice from the call. He poured coffee into glass tumblers, slid a thick folder across the table, and began to explain what had been hidden for decades. My uncle Daniel Brooks hadn't simply disappeared. He had carefully withdrawn from American banks, selling off properties and shifting his wealth into a trust built across multiple jurisdictions. He buried assets behind shell companies, coded transfers, and old-world financial channels. Legal, yes, but deliberately hidden. Inside the folder were letters, handwritten, addressed to me, sealed until my divorce was finalized. The first one began, "Martin, I've watched you from afar. I saw the sweat, the way you built with your hands, the way you endured. I couldn't give you this while you were tied to her. I never trusted her. I leave this to you not just as money, but as freedom." Another, dated back to my teenage years, read, "Martin builds with his hands. He thinks with his heart. He will surpass me." I couldn't read more. My vision blurred. For years I thought Daniel had abandoned us, when all along he was preparing something. For me. Victor pushed a final document across the desk. "Authorize this and the account is yours. The assets include stocks, gold reserves, and even a villa in the south of France." My hands trembled as I signed. Just like that, the account, and everything tied to it, was mine. But strangely, I didn't feel wealthy. I felt unburdened, as though someone had finally pulled me out of the wreckage and said, "Stand up again." The flight home felt different. I wasn't the man who had left. The bitterness over Elaine and Richard hadn't vanished, but something deeper shifted. I realized I hadn't lost everything. I'd been stripped down to who I really was. The first call I made was to Lily. She listened quietly, then asked, "Does this mean you're coming back home?" "Yes," I said, "but home wouldn't be that lifeless row house unit, and it sure wasn't the estate where Elaine and Richard now lived." I bought a ranch house on the edge of Riverbend Valley. Land stretched wide, a wraparound porch hugged the frame, and I rebuilt it with my own hands, laying floors, setting windows, building a deck one nail at a time. Each hammer strike felt like reclaiming myself. A week later, Elaine called. I ignored the first ring. The second, I picked up. Her voice was softer than I remembered. "Martin, I made a mistake. I was angry. I never stopped loving you. Maybe we could try again." I let her finish before I spoke. "You didn't love me when I stood by you with everything I had. You loved the life I built around you. Now you want back in because of what I'm worth on paper. I'm not the man you left, and I'll never be yours again." Her silence cracked into sobs, but I didn't waver. Later, Richard left a voicemail. "Man to man, I messed up. I should have been honest." I deleted it before hearing the rest. I didn't need excuses, and I didn't need revenge. What I needed, I finally had. Peace. The greatest gift Daniel left me wasn't millions or deeds. It was clear. He saw what I couldn't. He gave me the means to rebuild, not just property or accounts, but a life that belonged to me again. Now, most mornings I still rise before the sun. Some habits don't fade. But instead of rushing out in boots with a thermos in hand, I sit on the porch of my new home, the wood still carrying the warmth of my own labor, and Brett, he in the quiet. The house isn't flashy, it doesn't need to be, because for the first time in decades, life was mine, and I knew a storm from Elaine and Richard was still coming. Time proved me right. The storm did come, angry calls, bitter messages, even veiled threats through mutual friends. But just as quickly as it rose, it passed. Their noise faded into the background while I built something steadier, something they could no longer touch. My home now is nothing grand, A ranch-style house tucked down a gravel drive, shaded by an old oak. Out front sits a wooden rocker I built myself. No marble floors, no glittering chandeliers. Just honesty, stillness, and silence that doesn't carry shame. Lily comes by often. She'll perch on the porch rail with her guitar, while I flip steaks on the grill or sip coffee. She talks about dreams of running her own cafe. I offered to help, but she shook her head. "I'll earn it, Dad." That's how I know she'll succeed. She's got my grit and her mother's determination, only steadier. My hope is that she learns to love better than Elaine and I ever did. Ms. Langley still lives in the house I grew up in. I tried to buy her something newer, but she refused. "I've got everything I need right here. Not every step forward means moving," she told me. I finally understand. Elaine never called again. Richard never came to my door. Their choices are their burden, not mine. I don't wish them harm, but their story no longer touches me. These past months I've been learning the value of stillness. I brought home a collie mix I named Scout. He follows me everywhere, ears perked like he's guarding my second chance. I joined a local group that supports veterans, not because I served, but because I wanted to give back. I build ramps, benches, and decks. Each project reminds me that the work of your hands matters more than the weight of your K account. I also made a choice with the inheritance. A portion now funds a foundation, the Cole Grant, aimed at helping single fathers rebuild after divorce. I know what it feels like to sleep in a truck, to wonder where to turn. No man should feel abandoned. If I can help even one father stand back up, then all the loss and all the gain will mean something greater. The truest lesson I've carried is this: your worth isn't measured by what you own or what's been stolen from you. It's measured by what you rise to rebuild when everything else falls away. Money didn't heal betrayal or erase grief, but it gave me a chance to rediscover the man I once was. And if you're listening, if someone walked out on you or stripped away what you thought defined you, hear me. There's a part of you they can't touch. It's still inside. Dig deep, protect it, and let it guide you home. If this story spoke to you, do 3 quick things. Tap like so others can find it. Drop a comment sharing your own story or the moment that struck you most. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this isn't an ending. It's the start of something better. Thanks for walking this road with me.